It's a microcosm of Palestine. It's a story of a Muslim charity, what used to be the largest Muslim charity in the United States, called the Holy Land Foundation. And after 9/11, or before 9/11, throughout the 90s, they were singled out by Zionist watchdog groups like the Anti-Defamation League, which is really a racist organization that supports Israeli terrorism, nothing more, by Zionist politicians like Chuck Schumer and Anthony Weiner and some others. And they were targeted because they inadvertently, because of the good work that they were doing, were poking holes at the narrative, the Zionist narrative. Then, so this went on throughout the 90s. Stories about them being supporters of terrorism and being terrorists and so forth. But nothing really stuck until 9/11. After 9/11, the American administration needed a scapegoat. They needed to show they're doing something. So George Bush in December of 2001, so very shortly after 9/11, using an executive order, shut them down, seized their assets, and designated them a terrorist organization. And that was the end of 2001. What followed was a series of trials. One was a civil case where they sued the government, assuming it was a big mistake because they did nothing wrong and they had all the evidence showing they did nothing wrong. But their case was dismissed and all of their evidence was struck from the record by a local judge here in DC. Then they started a criminal case against them, which was very strange. It seemed strange because there was no crime. They committed no crime whatsoever. They did not support terrorism. All the finances were above board. I mean, every penny was accounted for and so forth. But the government managed to create a story whereby they could do nothing wrong, nothing right. So regardless of how legitimate they were, regardless of how legitimate the organizations with which they worked in Palestine and other countries were, the story was they were supporting Hamas. And the organizations they were working with were supporting Hamas, or were part of Hamas, or were controlled Hamas. They brought countless, thousands and thousands of documents that were confiscated by the Israeli military and then sent over without any real, nothing really to authenticate and to demonstrate that these documents had any real meaning to them. But they were all accepted by the judges. They brought two witnesses who testified anonymously, who were agents of the Israeli secret, the intelligence services. And at the end of the first trial, there was a trial. At the end of the first trial, there were no convictions. So then the government came back again, changed the indictments, and at the end of the second trial, the second judge allowed pieces of evidence and testimony that even the first judge did not allow, and he was no friend of the defense. And at the end of the second trial, there were all convictions, and we have two men, Shukri Abu Bakr and Ghassan Elashi, with 65-year sentences. Mufid Abdul Qadir, who in the first trial was found not guilty on all charges, but then was tried again, he received 20 years. And Abdurrahman Odeh and Muhammad al-Mzain each got 15 years in federal prison. These men are absolutely, without a shred of a doubt, innocent men. They're some of the finest men you will ever meet, I've ever met. I met 4 of the 5 in prison. I was able to visit them. They have a stellar reputation. Everybody who knows them admires them. And here they are in prison. So this is a story, so Injustice is a story of their lives, their families' lives, their background, where they came from, their connection to Palestine, and of course the legal story. And also the question that the story raises is, why are they being persecuted now that they've left Palestine, now that they're no longer a threat to the state of Israel? Their children are not going to go back. They live here, they're Americans, they made a life for themselves. Why are these people, as representatives of a larger community, because the entire community is suffering from the same persecution, why is this still going on? Why is it being allowed to go on outside of Palestine? And really their fate, even though they've been here for so many years, is connected to that of Palestine, and they realize that they're political prisoners, just like Palestinians sitting in Israeli jails. And the sad, well, I don't know if it's sad, it's either sad or happy depending on how long it takes, The reality is that because their fate is connected to the fate of Palestine, they will not be released. They will not be exonerated until Palestine is free and the Palestinian prisoners in Palestine are free, because it's the exact same story. So that's the the bigger circle kind of that exists within that story.